Here's why Trump will be the last Republican president of the United States of America as we know it today. Now, some of you who are anti-Trump, you might be cheering this. Some of you who are pro-Trump, you might sound sad. I don't know. But actually, let me lay this out for you because it's more complex than that. Here's the deal. All governments try to ratchet up their power and size and influence. And over time, countries, they go through cycles. They go through growth cycles. They're very predictable. And right now we're in the complacency stage where we have the young generation today growing up thinking that they don't have to work, that they don't have to get a real education with real job skills or anything. They think they can just buy Bitcoin and ride that through their whole lives. And many of them do anyway, these millennials and younger. And they are really offended by the idea of individual responsibility, hard work, even liberty. They believe in collectivism. They think the government should provide a universal basic income. They think that the government should restrict firearms ownership or high-calorie soft drinks, or the government should basically tell you what to think, what to read, what to believe, how to act, how to live your whole life. That becomes a more and more popular idea over time. And what's happening in America today is that the universities and public schools, K through 12, are also teaching children, they're indoctrinating them with collectivism ideas. So countries tend to become more and more collectivism oriented over time until something breaks. So for example, when we had the Declaration of Independence and we broke off from the King of England, that was a major philosophical change back to personal responsibility, individual liberty. And from that, of course, we got the Bill of Rights, the First Amendment, the Second Amendment, and so on. So it's a time of being reborn with a sense of personal responsibility. But over time, every society, and this happened to England, this happened with the European Union, and this happened with the United States and other countries. Over time, governments become bigger and bigger, more bloated, and countries tend to veer to the left. It's kind of people being funneled down a slippery slope of convenient philosophies, of giving up their personal power, of not having to take responsibility for their own actions or their own success in life, and just sort of surrendering to a big brother government. This is sort of the default human condition, it seems, because it's easy, it's lazy. You don't have to think. You don't have to take responsibility. All you have to do is do what you're told, be obedient, go along with the crowd, conform, and then you'll be okay as government gets larger and larger and controls more and more aspects of your life. And if you take that to the logical extreme, what do you get? North Korea. On the way there, on that spectrum, you get communist China, but eventually you get North Korea, where the government is your god. The government is your god and tells you everything, what you're allowed to believe. Now, the United States is going in this direction. You look at all the sycophant Hillary supporters and worshipers of Barack Obama. They are like the obedient, brainwashed cult members in North Korea. They don't think for themselves. They don't even have the skills to think for themselves. They want to be told what to do, what to think. They want to be controlled by a government, and Hillary almost won. I mean, think about it. She almost won the election. The fact that Trump won was, I think, the last-ditch surge of an outcry for individual liberty and smaller government among the population, and it's probably the last time that's going to happen until things break down. And what I mean specifically, I don't want to just speak in generalities here. Specifically, I mean that after Donald Trump, I don't see another Republican winning the White House until the United States of America suffers a major reconfiguration where it's not the same as it is today. In other words, secession, for example, or an economic collapse, decentralization of power out of Washington. When power in Washington is nullified by states, or there is a rise up of regional nation states through secession movements and so on, that will sort of recalibrate the rebooting of local governance, which brings with it, by definition, more local personal responsibility, more transparent government, less corruption, and so on. For example, if, let's say, Donald Trump were to continue his presidency for 8 full years, and then in 2024, it would be likely that a Democrat would get elected. And if that Democrat got elected and then started to crack down on individual liberties and rights, we could see Texas, for example, becoming its own nation state, declaring its independence. And if it succeeded in that, then Texas would start with a small government with a large amount of freedom, with low regulation, and so on. It would be a kind of local reboot. And over time, Texas then would become more and more bureaucratic, but it wouldn't start that way. Now, let's take the inverse situation. Let's say that Trump wins re-election in 2020, and then California secedes because California, or at least the left coast of California, can't stand the idea of Donald Trump being president for 4 more years. Let's say California secedes. Well, then California would have to create its own government, and even though California, the left coast part of it anyway, believes in big government and a welfare state and socialism, if not communism, it would still be a reboot at the local level compared to the federal tyranny that exists today. So even California would be a smaller government, per capita, than what the federal government is today, because the federal government is a bloated, overpaid, way too powerful organization that tries to rule from one centrally planned location, Washington, D.C., to rule over the entire nation. And whether it's a Republican or a Democrat in charge, sitting in the Oval Office, it still is bloated, overzealous, tyrannical government that doesn't reflect the local interests or the local cultures that exist across this country. So any of these trigger events, it could be an EMP weapon I've talked about before from North Korea. It could be international war, like World War III, let's say. It could be an economic collapse, a collapse of the dollar. It could be a domestic civil war. It could be lots of things. Any trigger event is likely to cause this decentralization of power, perhaps the balkanization of America, and end up giving us perhaps more than one country that is nothing like the United States of America. It's more like the divided states of America, or just the states, or maybe the regions of America. Maybe the right name would be the divided regions of America. That's likely what we're going to end up with, I believe, at some point here, because there are so many catastrophic events converging in the next decade or so that any one of them could trigger a real breakup. I think we're looking at kind of the Soviet Union before the collapse of the USSR, which happened overnight without warning, by the way. All of a sudden, it was no longer the Soviet Empire. All of a sudden, it was, I don't know how many nation states it was, like 14 or whatever, different nation states now that declared their own sovereignty from the Soviet Union. And it happened overnight, and it can happen in America. And the conditions are very ripe for that to happen. So that's why I say that I don't see another Republican ever running the White House, because I don't think America will last much longer than the Trump administration, frankly. And it's not due to Trump's fault or anything. He's just here at the time of these events converging, and thank goodness he won the election so that we don't have the incredible tyranny that we would have received under Hillary Clinton. But nevertheless, the American empire, its days are numbered. That's my conclusion in all of this. So prepare accordingly. It's what I like to warn people. Prepare accordingly. Things are going to change quite dramatically in the years ahead. You can read more about all this at newstarget.com or trump.news. Thank you for listening. This is Mike Adams, the Health Ranger.
Learn more at healthrangerreport.com.
Thank you for watching. If you want to support our mission, visit us at healthrangerstore.com for the world's largest selection of lab-verified superfood and nutritional products for healthy living. It's at healthrangerstore.com.